My name is Frankie FearLess. After a decade of being on a journey with the help of the plant medicine ayahuasca, I realized I've met some of the most amazing beings going through powerful awakenings. They have their own adventures, their own stories, their own wisdom and personalities. Today, I would like to introduce them to you. It's time we become something more together. This is Fearless Conversations. It's your main man, Frank Castle, your Sorcerer Supreme, bringing you another episode of Fearless Conversations. And I don't want to hold this up with a giant beginning, so I'm going to get right to it because the conversations we're having off air are incredible, and I would really love to get into that with today's guest. So today's guest, I'm secretly a fan of. I know I'm not supposed to be fans of people, but I watch this man step into it and grow and go and drop in knowledge one after another. And he very much aligns with everything, I guess, that I'm about as well. So today I want to introduce to you Stephen from BGcast. BGcast is the podcast that covers the Great Awakening and everything it entails, from deeply esoteric to breakthroughs in quantum physics involving consciousness to conspiracies. We cover it all. Stephen of BGcast woke up in 2008 and since then has dedicated his life to understanding the divine nature of the human being and the reality we live in. You can find him on Rumble, YouTube, Spotify. All links will be in the description tonight. I want to welcome to Fearless Conversations, Fearless family, Steve from BGcast. Thank you so much for being here. I love you, brother. Thank you so much.
Anytime, man. Love you too, bro. And thank you for those kind words. I really appreciate it. It's nice to know that you listen, man. I listen to you too. I'm a fan of you as well. And I mean, there's no shame in being fans of each other, man. We're comrades in this. We're all in this together. And I'm grateful you see it that way. And I know a lot of us here do, I mean, we're all the conscious collective. And, whether we have our little subsections in it, whether you're more on the conspiracy end, whether you're more on the spiritual end, we're all part of this conscious collective, man. And, we're all in this together. And it's good to see people who understand and realize that. And, we're stronger together. Could you imagine, man, a unified conscious collective? We'd be tossing mountains into the sea, literally, dude. Like it would be instantaneous, man. But again, thank you for having me here, Frank. I had such a good time with you on Don's show on Friday. I am looking forward to picking up this conversation, man.
Yeah. Shout outs to Don Rogers, the After Dark show. We had an amazing show. When three gather in the name, there's no failing. I've never failed when three have gathered because it's like the thoughts come from every direction when we do that, right?
We start channeling, man. I'll tell you this, and we were really a good portion into trying to crack this potential cymatic technology, man. And based on, I was happy it shed light on some of your experiences. I'm happy it helped people in the audience learn and kind of get a visual representation of kind of what we're experiencing here, man. And I think if, like you said, 3 is a magic number. I think we should start doing more things in 3s, man. We can probably start cracking a lot of this stuff and opening these doors within us, man, because I'm a big believer, like we talked about on Friday, that I call it the Great Awakening for just for ergonomics, just so it's easy enough to explain to people. But I honestly, I'm not the hugest fan of that term, man. I like calling it the Great Remembering. And because I totally believe that within us we have all of this information already within us. We have that not only that soul memory, we have that ancestral genetic memory from the times of human antiquity within ourselves as well. So we already have these answers. We already have this knowing and this divine spark within us. It just takes the remembrance and the realization of what's already within us to catalyze the effect that we wish to see within ourselves.
That's right. So I find as we heal ourselves, we evolve through healing the trauma. It just starts. The minute I started giving myself a little bit more love, a little bit more attention to my needs, what I really needed, things started to change in this world, right? Start picking up after yourself, cleaning up after yourself, and it starts to echo out and appear out in front of us. And then it's happening to so many people, and people are afraid to talk about it sometimes. I don't think as much anymore. And I always found it weird. Everybody has a story of a ghost or a poltergeist or some family story where that's involved. And it's cool to kind of like touch into that. It's cool to say, oh, UFO or yeah, Bigfoot might exist or whatever. Then when you bring it in from there, it starts getting weird with people, right? Shadow, religion, possibilities, like, oh, it's not religion, it's this other stuff. Oh, what do you mean we've been programmed? That's a hard one, right? Telling you I was lied to, but it's okay. We were all part of it, but we all had amnesia, so you can't really blame yourself, right? But
No, you can't. You can't blame yourself, man. And the thing about it is, it's what we have right now is we have a lot of people. So I've used the cake analogy to describe this. Think of what's going on as a massive 7-layer cake. And this is kind of what I've been using to describe the current situation. And we have a lot of people who are on the icing, the very thin icing of this cake. And, especially with the conspiracy community starting to become mainstream. Well, it has become mainstream now. What we have an effect of is now, because this is mainstream, number one, the mainstream controls the conspiracy community. Two, now we have this acceptable mob mentality, this acceptable groupthink that's starting to occur right now too, because since the surface level of the cake is acceptable to talk about now, and what it's done is it's played to the human condition, it's played to human nature and human psychology, and also the psychology of governments. So what we have is kind of this mob mentality that's growing, this groupthink that's growing in the conspiracy community and the awakening community. So when you talk about the surface level stuff like ghosts, cryptids, poltergeists, or, you talk about politics or, any of the conspiracies that have to do with politics, especially things, involving, and I'm grateful the child trafficking stuff has been brought to light. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that stuff needs to be brought to light. It's good, but all of these people are sitting on the icing of the cake. Now, people like us, we've decided to go, this icing is really tasty, man. We need to see what else is in this cake. We need to cut into the cake and we need to see what else is there. And so people like you and I have cut open the cake. We're inside of the cake. We're checking it out and we're like, holy crap, like this is beautiful. Like it almost kind of, it's almost synonymous with the allegory of the cave, because when you open up the cake, you see that true sunlight and you're like, oh my goodness, like look at what's in here. And then you try to tell everybody, you turn around and you go, you guys should really have a piece of this cake. And they're like, the icing's just fine right now. The icing's where I want to be, things like that. So I'm with you, man. It's like, when you try to get into these deeper spiritual topics, especially when you start to really uncover there's a spiritual nature to this existence. There's a spiritual nature to what's happening right now on the world stage. I mean, the physical and the spiritual are intertwined. It's one and the same, as above, so below. But when you start bringing that up, what happens to a lot of people is they start to become afraid. And, you have to ask yourself, why are these people becoming afraid? Because a lot of them have those subconscious closet full of skeletons, or has the subconscious closet full of skeletons, and has the subconscious traumas that they have been through and done throughout their life, that the thought of something, and when I say this, I don't mean higher as in a point it's better than us, higher in terms of frequency. That's the best way I can describe it. There is something more, there is something greater here than just the physical reality that we experience. It starts to intimidate people and it starts to kind of put that fear in them. But really, if they could just open their minds a little bit, and they would see that there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. There's something beautiful that is on the other side of this. There's something beautiful inside of that cake. that is I guess the best way to describe it is it's life-changing, it's liberating. And you find out that you're this divine spark, this subjective focal point of this universal divine spirit or consciousness, whatever you wish to call it, and that you are a direct participant in this reality. Direct participant. You are not a bystander just watching this all go down. And for some people it can be a lot. But just like you've said, Frank, I'm starting to see this change too. I mean, and one of the biggest things I've talked about is we have two factors to our great awakening / great remembering going on right now. We have the conscious aspect and we have the subconscious aspect. And a lot of people have asked me, what do you mean the subconscious aspect of the awakening? Well, you have the conscious aspect, which are people like you and I. The ones who are sitting here on the front lines, we're grounding the higher frequencies into this density. We are channeling the new earth frequency here, and we're imparting it into our collective energy. And that is what I would call the conscious aspect of the awakening. But then you have the subconscious aspect. And where this comes from is all of the people around us are actually accessing the energy in our progress at the same time. I can't tell you how many people, Frank, within the past couple of years have started getting into spiritual practices, have started getting into things like yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and the resurgence of homesteading and growing your own food.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
All I know, right? It's a beautiful thing we're looking at. And I think people we get frustrated sometimes, because we're in our human state right now ourselves, and sometimes we're like, man, if this could only go a little bit faster. But I have my moments like that sometimes too. But then I sit back and I'm like, well, this person who was devoid of anything spiritual like 3 years ago, now is starting meditation, now is starting a mindfulness practice, now is doing this. So we're seeing our efforts manifest in the collective on a subconscious energetic level. And that's why it's important for us to continue to keep doing the work, especially us energetic light posts here, man. We have to continue to keep healing, continue to keep doing the work, because the more that we progress, the more that our collective around us is going to progress as well.
Absolutely. Well said, my brother. Well said. I'm seeing a line, right? Probably sine, cosine. And you're the whole thing. We're the whole thing. But as you wake up from the reality you were being fed, you start to dip above and below the line. But the line is still held by the people, unaware that the line is there. However that changes the frequency, the people are getting it no matter what. So you can apply it to like the guy carving himself out of the rock. Some people's stone statue just has maybe a few fingers out, or there's a finger just breaking through, where guys like us or people like us have been chipping away and seeing that there's a man under there or a woman under there. And then what it really means to be that, as you're realizing what you are here. And the cake layers are great. When you were talking, I had this image in my head of walking into a basement, right? But the bat cave is down there, like Batman's bat cave, right? And you don't know, and you're like, dude, it's dark. And you're like, no, you guys got to come check this out. And they're like, everyone's scared to go down the stairs, but you're like, whoa, it's so dark. And then you flip the light on, and you're like, whoa, you mean all this is down here the whole time? Yes.
It's exactly like that, man. It's I think one of the biggest things that we see in the rebuttal of the center of the cake, or when you cut the cake, is number one, it transforms you on such an interpersonal level that now you have no choice but to grow. You have no choice but to take accountability for yourself and your actions, how you are towards other people. And you have to maintain the awareness, this awareness, as you continue to grow. Now, the thing about the universe, I'm going to borrow a phrase from Sarah the Alchemist. She's become a good friend over the past couple of years, man.
She's the best.
Dude, I emailed her. She got on Gaia with Regina Meredith. I was so happy for her. I emailed her. She responded to me back, and she was like, thank you so much. She's like, I hope you're sitting in this seat eventually yourself. And that was good to hear. But nonetheless, she goes, the universe has no chill. And why I like this is because it's not that it doesn't have any chill, but once you become aware, you are held accountable for that awareness. And as your awareness increases, as you continue to grow and as you continue to heal, the universe is going to continue to hold you more and more accountable for your growth and your evolution. And sometimes that can be a lot for some people. Like, it's not easy to go into your mind, and open up your closet of skeletons, and you're looking at this closet of skeletons and you're like, holy shit. And you look up and this closet of skeletons might be 100 feet high, and you're looking at all these skeletons and you're going like, holy shit, dude, what am I going to do about all this? You dive in head first. That's the best thing I can tell you, is you dive into that closet full of skeletons head first, man, and you take it on. And it's in, the aspects of the evolution and of the spiritual healing. Sometimes it's rough, man. Like, I do this about 3 times a week. I'll be sitting here and I'll do my Hanuman combined protection mantra. And I'll be sitting there doing it, and I'll get to this point where I see like this flame start to appear around me. And when this flame starts to appear around me, I start to relive everything that's happened to me, whether it's something that's happened to me or something I did to somebody else when I wasn't aware and I wasn't as conscious as I am today. And I relive it. I feel the emotion, I relive the scenario, and I release it. And sometimes that can be a lot for people to handle. I think not the number one thing that the American collective, and potentially some of the global collective too, they've lost almost the will to learn or grow or experience. It almost seems in some ways that's what's been happening. So nonetheless, man, and it's part of a process that we all have to undergo. And that's why some people get afraid, man, because they found that sense of comfort. The physical realm is almost like their comfort blanket. You know what I mean? It's like they go a little bit too far or they go a little bit too deep. And what ends up happening is they'll retreat back to the physical realm. They'll retreat back to the narrative. They'll retreat back to what makes them feel comfortable. And that's the thing that we have to understand in our growth process sometimes, man, is sometimes we have to set aside comfort and we have to do what's best for us in the long run.
Yeah, it's not about being comfortable, right? Change isn't always comfortable, right? And with great power comes great responsibility. And your awareness as it grows requires you to be responsible, because you will notice your power go up like a meter. Oh, I could do all this stuff. I could do all this. Yeah. But with that comes all of this. A lot of my clients, they'll say, everything's great when I work with you. I love working with you. But when you say I am source, and that's the baseline you should always rest at. So when you meet things or you go through things, you're like, well, of course it's there for me. All of this is here for me, and it all exists. So now you don't have to worry about being freaked out if, there's 200 different versions of the grays, right? It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. And you're like, yeah, well, I'm source. So of course there's everything out there. Now exploring that possibility becomes a fantastic narrative. However, if you don't heal your trauma and you don't deal with those skeletons, it becomes increasingly difficult to deal with the true base reality that we're headed. Right? So there's this like really intense thing that happens inside a human being as this goes on. I do the show Fearless, right? But the song is, I'm becoming fearless. I'm not fearless. I'm becoming that. And you know what? Some days I'm better than others. Some
100%.
days it's a lot easier. Some days it's just too hard. And you know what? I ran away the other day. And it's okay. You're going to learn through a little bit of the venom each time, little bit, that it increases your ability to deal with the nonsense, the unrelenting universal structure that bends to your will. right?
100%, man. I would agree. And one of the you kind of summed it up really well there, man. It's a matter of, understanding that where we're heading at this point in time, it's going to be very different. I mean, and having that baggage and carrying that baggage with you into where we're heading this next level is going to be it's not going to be a pleasant experience. But the one thing I was going to say that you brought up when it comes to doing that, let me pull open my book here real quick because I wrote a couple of things down. So the number one thing I was going to say about that, man, when it comes to healing your baggage is absolutely yes, man. So the number one thing that we're going to start potentially experiencing here soon is as the frequencies increase and as the energy increases. And here's the thing, man, I've even ran myself a couple of times, not really technically ran, but I guess what I'm going at is this. Right now, I feel personally that we have higher energetic allies. And what I mean by higher energetic allies is we have these beings, these entities, higher dimensional, that are monitoring what I would call TV show Earth at this point in time. And the collective is being monitored, but people like you and I who have awakened the divine spark and are on our path of remembrance, we're being monitored ourselves. And we are being tested by guides, or whoever is allowed to come in and test us, according to our own free will. Based on we get to points in our healing journey where we're ready to experience things. We're ready to take on new perspectives, new perceptions, and things like that. So we will be tested. And I think right now we are in a very interesting time energetically. We're undergoing a lot of shifts. The energies have been sensitive, or have been intense for energetically sensitive people like you and I. And that's where a lot of that running or that want to run comes from, man, because, we'll be at a point where whether we're having an off day energetically, or, there's other things that are influencing us if we're not aware of that. And we can encounter a really, I guess you could say, traumatic or deep scenario. And sometimes we can falter. We cannot have the strength. We do have the strength, but we're not 100% ourselves. So the best thing I could say when we encounter that, man, is give yourself some grace. Is like, we have to give ourselves grace. We have to understand that we're all works in progress. Like, we have to, get at that. Yes, even though we are source at our center, we are in this temporary human experience at this point in time. And with that comes the aspects and the reality of the temporary human experience. So I feel right now, man, it's a very interesting time for a lot of us, and you talk about as above, so below. I remember, what was it, last week, in the middle of the week, I was feeling pretty scrambled, and a lot of people were talking about the full moon and it having a more intense energy than it usually had. I still kind of figuring out what caused me to feel that way. But the number one thing is it's me being held accountable to my awareness. I understand a lot of this stuff is going on, from an energetic standpoint as well as a physical standpoint. And I have to gain that understanding that when these things happen to me, sometimes I'm going to have a rough day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So why carry a 50-pound backpack full of rocks up the mountain journey that we're going on?
Exactly.
As you travel, you start to release the rocks. You start to let it go, right? And you're like, what if I let it go? Everything's going to change. Yeah, it changes, but you don't forget.
No, of course not.
You're just forgiving. That's all. You're not carrying the load on your shoulders. And we all work differently. Now, I'm non-religious, 100% non-religious. However, some of the characters I deal with kind of fit into other religions and weird things. So when I'm under the full moon and the intensity is too much, I always go, oh, I got few friends that will literally call me only during the full moon, and they don't even know it's full moon. And I'm like, oh, it must be the full moon. That's why I'm feeling like this. And I will say, this is the weirdest thing. I've learned to work with Kali, right? So
Mhm.
I call her mother of destruction, right? She loves that. Like
I'm
she's like,
sure she
oh, that's
does.
cool. Because I said to her mother, and she goes, I'm not your mother when I first met her. And then I went, of destruction, and she goes, ah, my child. And then we just started getting all right. So I'll say when I can't figure it out, like you were saying, like I still don't know what affected me. I'll say to her, I don't know what's happening, but obviously I have some issues. I don't want them no more. Not that I don't want to deal with them, but I can't have this burdening me with the non-awareness of what the hell's happening and what it is. Being that it's basically your night, she's the removal of the old thought process.
Mhm.
She deconstructs the thoughts and the things that are no longer needed. So it gives you space for new things to come in, new ideas, new everything. And oh my, she will gloriously come in, slice a throat from behind, pull a head off, and then it just leaks out and appears in front of me, and I'll witness it leaving and know what it is. I'll say thank you to her. I ground myself. I say thank you to everyone. Thank you for letting me have this experience where now I understand what's going on. And then by the time it's whisked away, I've already forgiven myself or forgiven the other or made amends of some kind and said, okay, let's go. I'm not sitting on that no more because it felt like you, by pulling it out, I'm lighter.
Oh,
By
100%.
me going through some kind of purge release process this way, I feel better. Man, I'm happy like a 7-year-old kid with action figures, bro. Like I can't explain what happened to me. It's like as I release that, we and then the childish the not the child the feelings of being the child where things are fascinating again. Right? Like, oh, we're gonna do this. Oh yeah. Remember, if you do this and do this, it'll create that. Oh, so that's what we were doing the other night, man. I'm getting chills again thinking about it.
Same, man.
We weren't wrong
No,
in
we
any of
weren't.
that uncovering.
I think we were pretty spot on. I think
We're remembering it.
it is, man. Well, when you look back, I mean, we were even talking about, I brought up the cruciform in the churches and how they have cymoglyphs on the old cathedrals in France. I mean, you've even seen them on churches where you're from. And you had your experiences with ayahuasca and seeing these similar patterns. I've had experiences myself with them. And when we look at how sound is everything. Frequency is everything. And how this frequency creates these geometric patterns. And these geometric patterns are essentially, like I said, when we were talking about the other night, it's like a pin number. You have like this pattern, you enter in this pattern, this certain frequency, it opens this door. And I wholeheartedly think, at least, and I feel within me, that this is to be the case. I mean, we look at, like I even brought up Michael Tellinger and the Stone Circles down in South Africa, which I mean, even though I've done away with, I wouldn't say I've completely done away with it, but like our history, I question all of the time at this point, just based
Yeah.
on a few things. But if we're going with the consensual narrative of history, these stone circles are potentially 1 million years old. They set up to 1 million to 2 million. It throws archaeology as we know it on its ass. It does, because now we have evidence of modern civilization dating back way farther than it should be. And they were smart. They had these stone circles that were built out of these resonance stones, which means when you would hit this stone with something, it would cause a note, a pitch, and it would cause all of the other stones around it to vibrate in succession with this pitch. So, I mean, I do think that there is, I mean, you look at the wave particle duality, Frank, in simplistic terms, we can either view particles as matter or as particles, or we can view them as waveforms, as frequencies. And I'm a big believer that if we were to just shift our perspective, and instead of looking at everything as is physical and as these particles, and we shifted it into viewing it as frequency and wavelength, we would open a door that would literally take us back to the times of antiquity and the knowledge that they had. And I'm a huge believer that, I mean, you look at the megaliths, right? And then here's something about all the megaliths, because I know a lot of people try to come and debunk this and debate people. So here's the thing, man. I work in infrastructure. All right. I'm an electrician. I've been an electrician for 15 years. I've seen skyscrapers go up from from ground up to final. And here's the thing. I'm going to throw this in there. We use the same model, the same cage model as the trade centers. I'm just going to throw that in there. But here's the thing I'm going to say also is it takes us these gigantic cranes and these giant hoists to lift these 2 to 3 ton galvanized I-beams that go up in this succession to create the cage for the building. You are not telling me that these slaves put these blocks on these sand rollers and dragged a 50-ton stone and from an hour away and somehow got it up that, 75-degree incline and set it into place with laser precision. There had to have been something else there. So I do think, man, this is the beginning. I think this is the beginning of us channeling this information from within us. We're tapping into that ancestral genetic memory, that soul memory of the lifetimes that we've had here before. And it's starting to come into cultivation within us. And that's why we have these conversations. And one thing I wanted to bring up with you that you kind of brought up in the beginning, about the healing real fast. So one thing I've been seeing a lot of is people have been coming out and saying they're completely healed. And I'm glad we're on the same page with that, man, because like it's to me, it's an ego trip. It's an ego trip to say, because here's the thing, like healing is not getting rid of everything that happened to you. You're never going to do that. You're never going to do that. It made you who you are today. Like I look back in my life, it was pretty fucked up. Not the most fucked up around probably, but it was still pretty fucked up nonetheless. But I would not change a fucking thing, because the Steve that's sitting in front of you right now would not be sitting in front of you. We'd be dealing with a whole different Steve, man. I think healing, one thing people have to realize about healing is your traumas and your pain and your sadness. Of course, I hope you're working to let go of that sadness and come to grips with it, but it all goes into the back seat of who you are. I think one of the biggest things that we do before our healing process is we're in the driver's seat, but we got everybody else up there in the driver's seat with us. You know what I mean? Like we got our ego on the right-hand side. We've got our traumas, our pain on the left-hand side. You got your hands on the wheel, then trauma comes over and grabs the wheel and swerves it this way. And you're like, no, we can't be doing that. And then all of a sudden ego goes, oh, no, we're going left. We're not going right. And so the ego will grab the wheel, swing it this way, whatever. So basically what you're doing is you're clearing out the front of your car. That's what healing is to me, at least, is you're clearing out the front of your car. Your everything is taking a back seat, and your higher self is then taking the driver's wheel. And that's the best analogy I can use for that. But I wanted to bring that up because I've been seeing that go around a lot lately. And to me, I think if you think you are completely healed, I still think you have some more healing to do. And I just want to say that.
Yeah, you don't go tell people that. You just live free inside of you because of that, right? So to make it even more, to add to what you were saying, as you go down that path and heal that trauma, and you go through healing, your highest self is now, you're making room for the overlay, right? Because it's right here. It's not out there. It's right over you. You expand from the decompression of being in third density. You begin to expand out, and the traumas and the healing and the health and whatever, that all starts, you start to repair it. and those pieces leave. The 50-pound backpack becomes a much lighter backpack. You're only wearing maybe the backpack. And then the higher guy, the highest self, starts to fit in to those spaces that are now open. They fill you with light. Light is information, awareness. It's a data stream. It's a connection to the higher guy. And I'll say he for me, this is how they show it to me. Like a little kid putting on a snowsuit and mom's putting it on, and it's like you already got 5 layers on. So you're trying to stuff that leg in that little snowsuit. So that's the higher self and what it's trying to do, because at one point it's all going to converge into one. The as above, so below is going to connect, and you're going to have the spirit, the highest spirit, the subconscious, the conscious, all together in one thing, just rocking full awareness. That's the idea of this. So you're making room for that to occur.
Exactly.
Right? Like the enlightened ones, the enlightened beings. One of the first things I noticed growing up about these beings that have been in this world, perhaps, is that there's light coming out of them.
Oh, yeah.
A glow of some kind. Right? And what would that be? As you get more of the big guy inside of you, we don't know where we have everything in the living library, which is planet Earth, and then everything in the universe and the stardust that makes up the whole thing in here. So how do we know what's the next step in evolution is going to be? Being the whole thing and being the person who we are that made us this way, and infinite ways to become this new thing. You start to go, whoa. And it's like, yeah, man, you don't have to follow what I say or what Steve says. You go through your experience and you be like, yo, this is great. And then you hit a point and you're like, oh, I wonder what people think about this. Then you hear all of us talking about all our different experiences. And then you come through and go, yeah, this will work for me. This will work for me. This will work. Boom,
Absolutely.
You're in. And now you look back and go, wow. So I carved my own path through this by clearing this stuff out.
Oh, yeah.
Making room and undensifying myself.
I would completely agree. And I think that's the most beautiful part about it, man. And it's like, you should find peace and find beauty in the fact that you are carving out your own path, And I mean, like, I think a lot of people, they hear these experiences from other people, and they have they place this expectation on their own healing and their own spiritual evolution. And I think that's excuse me, a disservice you can do for yourself, because a good example of this is the first time I ever astral projected. And I heard all of these stories, all of these experiences of how people astral projected, and they're like, oh, well, my consciousness left my body, and this and this, I was attached to this silver cord, and it was something I had worked on for a long time, and then finally it happened to me. But how it happened, because I could never do it, because every time I'd go through the meditations, I would be trying to envision what everybody else told me was supposed to happen. And so I'm a Kundalini yoga practitioner, for those of you who don't know. So it's my natural DMT release every day. But I did this Kundalini Kriya for astral projection. Like the teacher I use, they came out with a Kriya set for that. So I was like, okay, like, let's give this a go. But before I started doing the Kriya, I told myself, I was like, let go of your expectation of what you think this is. And let go of it, because I think your expectation is what's holding you back from achieving it. And once I released the expectation of what I thought it was supposed to be, it happened to me. And I had a very profoundly different experience than everybody else when it comes to astral projecting. My consciousness just expanded to the point where I was in the astral realm. I didn't really see a silver cord. I mean, I wasn't really looking for it. At that point, I was just like, oh my God, I did it. Holy crap. Like, I've just done it. And, but it was vastly different for me. than it was for a lot of these other people. So, definitely what Frank was saying, man, you can listen to what we're saying, man, but carve your own path, find what works for you. And I think you described it really well, Frank, on how it works. Like, it's like the snowsuit, and then you get like a little foot in there, like the foot gets in the suit, and then all of a sudden maybe he gets, you get a hand in the suit. Then all of a sudden, and that's another thing I borrow from Sarah the Alchemist. Is this like her definition of what true ascension is? Like, don't get me wrong, I feel like we were talking about before the show, like if 51% of us, or even more, the majority of this earth, reach ascended consciousness, then yes, I do believe that we will transcend to a different type of reality. Until then, what I do think is the proper definition for ascension. It is channeling your higher self in the divine consciousness into the current avatar that you are now, and mastering yourself and bringing yourself to the best possible timeline for your spiritual evolution. And to me, that is what true ascension is. And you kind of just hit the nail on the head with what you said about getting the bigger me, that's our overlay within us, and we're existing, and we have that awareness and that knowing that we are the divine consciousness. Everything around us is created from us. And even Steve was created from me. Even Frank was created from me. They are pieces of me. And it's beautiful when you look at it that way, man, because like we're all essentially these subjective focal points of this one divine consciousness that gives us unlimited creation potential, unlimited imagination, unlimited depths to our being that we have still yet to discover. And that's one thing interesting. A lot of us are getting to really know what being a human means. You know what I mean? Like we have never been taught what being human means.
No
Even
book.
growing up, in our society, what being human means. And I think that's something that, people like you and I are discovering. Humans are special, man. And I think one of the biggest reasons that they place all of this stuff on us. And that's why, they want us to believe that, our existence is coincidental. It's meaningless. Okay. They want us to believe that we just evolved from these apes, that we're just technically these apes. We're no better than monkeys. And they place this limitation on us because if we were to discover our true nature of who we are as our collective, our true history, our true purpose for being here as humanity itself. You would look at this entire system just crumble into thin air at that point. And you would see a very, like you said, the true real world would start to emerge. And, that's why I'm such a huge proponent for panpsychism. If some of you guys don't know what panpsychism is, it's the newest and most hated theory in quantum physics that's starting to come to light. And it is putting consciousness as the prime fundamental of observable existence and all of existence. And it's hated for two reasons, because like we were just talking about, it takes our place out of the consensual narrative. It takes our place from being here as coincidence, meaningless, it's just by chance. And it makes our existence here absolutely necessary. We have to be alive in order for the universe to exist, or the physical realm to exist. And the other reason that I think it is hated so much is it shows us that we have no true objective reality. What we have is a collective of subjective realities that are existing here on planet Earth at this point in time. And what we have is a mutually agreed upon experienced reality. And that's why I was joking with you before the show that imagine if 51% of the collective started to elevate their frequency. I think reality would glitch, man. I think the false reality, the matrix, the societal Maya, the simulation, whatever you choose to call it, would start to morph and change right before our eyes. That's how powerful this is. So I think, you know, that's where I'm at with this, man, is it's understanding, number one, that our true divine nature um is accessible to us, within us at all times. Don't ride your spiritual evolution off other people's experiences or other people's thoughts. Okay, like that's the number one thing. I think a lot of us have a habit of doing this when we first start too, because we're like, you know, oh, this person said he experienced this, so I should also experience this. But no, it's not like that, dude. You're going to experience something in a way that's meant for you, and you have to release the expectation and the attachment of you know, what you think the experience is. That can be hard for us to do, because that's something we find comfort in too, Frank, is we find comfort in expectation. We find comfort in the expected, in the normal, or in something that someone else has experienced, so it's not foreign territory. Guys, welcome foreign territory. That's the best thing I can say to you. Like, we're all in foreign territory right now as a collective. Like, it's probably been what, like 14,000 years since we've been in this kind of state, or since we've been in where we're at. So embrace the foreign territory, embrace the unknown. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. So clients come to me and they're like, "Oh, remember when you said this and you did that?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's my life." Right? So they're like, "Well, I want to meet them, or I want to see them." And I'm like, "Have you, no judgment, have you ever seen anything?" No. Have you ever done psychedelics? No. So you're going to smoke DMT with me and you want the lion being to walk in the room. Are you ready to have a heart attack? You ready? And they're like, "If you can handle it, I can handle it." I'm like, "Yo, listen to me. I am built specifically, my framework, my holographic overlay is built to experience this stuff faster and evolve quicker, to let you know that it's there, because I contracted to do this." So it just happens to be one of those things. So when you smoke and then the character walks in and you throw a fit and try to escape by running through a closed door because you're like, just screaming. This is why you got to do a little bit at a time, which is why I tell people, just let mother or the mushroom teach you from the level that you need to be taught at. So one of my clients, we went under, and he wanted to see, he didn't believe in the ships and the this and the that. But what we got was, we turned into pink consciousness, streams of consciousness. And we were the only things in the room. And it was flowing everywhere he was a tube of consciousness swirling with my energy and then breaking apart. And what we were doing, the background kind of faded away, but you could still see that the wall was there and the couch was there, but it was like architecturally like blueprinted. And then we agreed, "Oh yeah, of course, we're in a room and that's a wall, and you're Frank and I'm Nick and we're on the couch and we smoke DMT." And the consciousness was agreeing to this stuff, holding the whole thing together. The agreement is what was doing it. And then we like tuned our frequencies to that, and then it was there. If we had a massive 51% jump, the baseline reality that you would then experience is like, let's say, real life. Like, this is the dream that we're in right now, the 3D, because everything exists outside of the dream, outside of this matrix that we've been held in. The reality is there. So you would explode into that area. People would have heart attacks. They'd fall over. They'd need healing immediately. They would scream. They'd run into the street. You would see things that you would think were 100% not supposed to be there. And it could take you down into so many disturbing directions, right? It's all demons. It's all UFOs. It's all the devil, like, so you have to go at your pace.
100%.
You have to learn as you learn. And I want to give you, this is how I know I'm connected to you. You ready? I'm going to tell you how. So you're using the cake, right? So I use the cake model too. I've been using this for years, right?
Oh,
It was
good, dude.
My heart, bro. So every time something happened, I'd pull my light sword, right? So my guide said to me, one day I swung it when I was floating in space with him or whatever, and this thing kind of approached, but it was just floating by, and I cut it in half. And then he said, "Why'd you do that?" And I said, "Oh, was that alive? Did I kill it? I didn't mean to do that. Like, you could do damage." So he was like, "No, this is kind of just some random stuff. We're just kind of floating through." He's like, "Yeah, you keep pulling that sword, someone's going to show up that wants to fight. So if you keep pulling your sword, you're going to war, right?" So the next thing I did, I found myself in a dark pit with demons, and the demons were ready to attack. They were all ready to eat me. And I said, "Oh, what's happening now?" And I said, I noticed as they were talking and I was interacting with them, they didn't have common sense, right? I noticed with the reptilians, they don't have common sense.
They don't.
They're highly intelligent, but common sense. You could like boop one of these dragons, like, "Hey, what's down here? Boop, gotcha," right? Like, you could do that to them. I wouldn't suggest it, but you can. So I said to the demon who was about to eat me, I said, "Wait, before you do that, has anyone ever sung Happy Birthday to you?" And he said, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I said, "The day you came into existence." And he said, "Oh yeah, I remember that." And I go, "Okay. Did anyone sing to you and say, 'Congratulations, you made it'?" And I pulled out a birthday cake. Just pulled it out. Like, "Hey." And then I'm like, "You like that cake? The cake's got everything in it. Look, it looks like me. It's got a little light on it, and you blow the light out, and then that's like extinguishing my light, and then you celebrate it by eating the cake, and then you eat me, apparently, right?" So he goes, "Oh, all right, I'll do it." And I just went bop, hit him with the cake. This dude, he blew out the candle first. He went poof, bop. I hit him with it, and the cake, each layer was a layer of we're everything. So I'm source. So source is everything. Your source. We're built. Our avatar, our DNA is made of everything. We're on the living library. Everything, 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 everything. The whole universal structure is in that layered cake. Each layer represents a different part of the entire universal structure, which is, by the way, created from source. Have a nice day. And I started doing that. And I told people, if you're going to beef, don't beef. Step back and pull out the cake joke, right?
That's a good one.
And then you transmute them, because it's everything. If they go for it, or if you you throw cake at somebody, you have a food fight, you could be throwing source food fight energy from the cake and just obliterating things and be having fun like a child would, instead of pulling your sword and going to war every day, because they will confront you with the war attitude. Like, all the reptilians are going to get me. I got to blah, blah, blah. And then you go into your experience, and there they are.
Oh yeah,
It brought them right there to you.
I got a lesson in that, man, and it was actually kind of like your words and like our talks that kind of got me through that. I got jumped by them, those bastards. That was a surprise, man. And I got out of it though. I used my knowledge, but no, it was funny story. So it was the Friday after Thanksgiving 2023. And I had just started doing Kundalini yoga at this time, like around, I've been doing it for about 3 months. And I remember I was like, I want to do one last heroic dose, like, one last heroic dose for a little bit, to kind of go in and just clear out some air. And, so I can fully embellish myself in this Kundalini yoga practice. So I remember I'm sitting there and I took, I believe it was 5 grams of this Thai strain of mushrooms. And I'm sitting there at my, kitchen table, and it's starting to come on. I'm feeling very interesting. I'm like, man, I was like, this is about to be a really intense experience. So like, I wanted something to drink. So I went over and I got myself a drink, and I'm sitting there, and I kid you not, Frank, as I'm going to take a sip of this drink, something hits the glass into my face. Water flies everywhere, and I look, and there they are, man. They just start manifesting themselves into my reality, these fractaline hyperdimensional reptiles. And I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, oh, you guys are here. Fantastic. So I'm like, and I get up and I'm like, all right. And so they're around me. They're like, ha, 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 like trying to like poke me and shit. And I'm like, okay, no, this is not how this is going. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go get in the shower. I'm going to relax, and I'm going to say my protection mantra. So I get up, and they're following me up the stairs. One's hopping in front of me, ha, 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 like just fucking with me. And I'm like, Yeah, I didn't know I was in for this. So I get in the shower and I said, I close the bathroom, I turn on the water, I start saying my mantra, but then one of them comes up to me and starts doing this. And Fricka starts closing his hand around my throat chakra. And I'm at the point where it's like, I can't say the mantra anymore because this being is closing off my throat chakra with its hand. So I remember I got out of the bathroom and I was like, okay, we're going to plan B. We're going to energy work these motherfuckers off of me. So like I go into my bedroom and I am, immerse myself in the experience, and I'm in my energy body and I look down and I see them trying to feed on me. And I remember like I've been doing qigong and other energy work before I started doing kundalini yoga. So I started focusing my prana and my chi in a sense that was going to repulse them and get them off of me. So luckily I was able, I kid you not, Frank, when I ripped them off of me, I saw a streak of my energy go with them because they were trying to eat it away from me. And I remember I freaking took them and I threw them into the corner of my room. And I looked at them and they were like this because they were like shocked at what I just did. And I was like, I'll deal with you motherfuckers later. And I shut the door and I was like, oh my God, thank God I'm happy to be out of that. But dude, exactly like, like I in a sense, like you were saying, I'm remembering the cake one for next time, because if that ever does occur and I'm tested like that again, I am going to be pulling out that cake, because I had to go at the rough way, man. I had to sit there and just literally peel them off of me and like use my energy. But it's good to know that, dude. It's good to know
I've
that
been
you
to
have
war with them. I removed one from a client and I didn't know I could do that. Right. So everybody's under and I go like this over her body. I grab it, it's down low, I pull it up, and then boop, it's out of her. She throws up, and then I'm holding it in my hand, and it appeared like a holographic lizard. And he was spinning, and he was looking at me like, oh man. And then he goes, you know what? I got you. And he jumps back into me. And man, my head, my back, everything started hurting. I ran into the other room. I grabbed a brick of salt, right? And I was like, I heard you guys don't like charged up salt. And I heard it go, and I'm like, oh, started putting salt all over my palms, all over, and then I made salt water, gargled, and I spit up like it just launched out of me. Like, bleh. I'm like, I got something for each one of you. When I first started this, I would like hone in on beings and they would come across like a live picture of just like the upper body, like we are right here. And it was almost like I was calling in on them, like Facebook, doom, doom. And then I get to one and it wouldn't like people. I don't know, like they'd be angry. And he just poked me right in my eye. And for like 20 minutes, I couldn't concentrate to go back. He would do it again until I started realizing, you got to start preparing yourself for that. You can change your frequency. Everyone's using energy. So I could match your energetic frequency, even if it's a weapon, it's like a sound weapon. My aura bubble, it will start deciphering the energy that's coming at me and then repelling it by creating or changing into what I need to protect me. Right. So it'll rebound it or it'll stall out. I mean, you can go on and on with this. Your imagination is key. So you can affect them in all, like you could wrap them in a coil and send them off. You can do all this, but you can match the frequency and then get to the next one. And now the weapon doesn't work. Like you can stand there and like Superman with bullets bouncing off, the energy weapon won't work because you stepped up one step above the energy weapon. Exactly. I use when they used the sonic weapon on me, Steve. They came into my apartment, they beat the crap out of me and turned it on and knocked me out of my body. I was dead. I watched what they were doing. They were creating a suicide attempt. Like, oh, he killed himself or whatever. They left me on the floor near the bathroom and I dove back into my body. And the ET was showing the humans how to do it. So he just cranked up his little thing. It looked like the Ghostbusters thing without the backpack. Like a stick. He turned it on and I just stood up and I was like, no more. I'm not dealing with this no more. And the human guy, everybody was just standing in front of me. I was like, oh, you all in the apartment for real. I was like, I'll remember you, and then boom, I got blasted in the back of the head. I'm like looking up, everyone's running in all different directions. And I go, how did I just do that? How did the ET looked at me like he didn't know what happened. He cranked it up and nothing happened. I just stood up and looked at him. And I'm like, and I saw the rings vibrating coming out of the weapon. They were like, boom, boom, like concentric circles, like donuts that got bigger and bigger. And it was just hitting me. And then it wasn't hitting me. It was just hitting out here. And it was kind of dispersing. And that caused them to get physical. They split my head open. The guy hit me in the back of the head with something. And I went down. And I was like, wow, so you can manipulate that back, stop it. I mean, we're source. This is what I mean. This is why I fall back to source. Like Superman is the L. That story's about us.
Oh, 100%.
That's us. 100%. The solar being.
I wanted to tell you something actually. So this is the first time I've spoken about this on air. I've told very few people about this too, and you're probably going to get a kick out of what I'm about to tell you. So, all right, let's put it this way. There is a theory that's been going around for quite some time that the reptiles don't like, and they cannot stand, and they can't be around a specific human bodily fluid. Now, I decided to put this to the test. I'm not going to go into in depth of what this was, but if you want to potentially get an idea of what I did, take a look at Jewish and Hebrew traditions. And I'm going to leave it at that. But I decided, Frank, let's see what happens, because, I'm very much like, I understand that I am source. So I had a vial of this bodily fluid that I decided, and you know how strange of a city Denver is. You know how it's got the sigils of Lucifer on light posts all throughout town, just for one.
You have a CERN device under the mountain, by the way.
I'm very aware there's something. There's pyramids around the airport. Not a lot of people talk about this when they talk about DIA. So they took landfills and they shaped them into pyramids. And next time I am driving by one of them, I will snap a photo for everybody. I promise. It's just been a while since I've been up there. But no, what they did is they took trash landfills and they designed them into pyramids. And there's about 3 of them from what I've seen that surround DIA in different areas. But so I decided, because I know there's potentially a lot of them walking around us. So I had a vial of this bodily fluid that I brought with me. I didn't tell anybody about it. And, and like the people I did tell about it, they're like, you're nuts. I'm like, dude, somebody's got to try it. We have to see what's going on here. We have to. Somebody's got to do it. And fuck it, I will do it. So I kid you not, man, that was a very strange day when I did this. And it was such a strange day to the fact that I'm convinced that there is something to it, this fluid, but I've come to find out that there's at least 5 of them that are at least in my immediate vicinity at all times. And they're at my place of work. And the very interesting thing that I found out was there's 2 people that I have to talk to. Like, we have to talk to each other at least once a day. Like, there's no choice about it. We have to, just because of work and everything going on. These people avoided me like the plague, Frank. They avoided me. They didn't show up to any of the appointments that we had. I ended up catching one in the hallway, and I yelled out to him, and he just flat out ignored me and kept freaking walking. I was like, holy shit, this is starting to get weird, man. And then one of the security guards that works at where I work as well, man, and just it was the reactions out of these people that gave them away, man, because this fluid, apparently it's in a lot of the Hebrew lore, and apparently it's in Buddhist lore. When we talk about the Nagas, or the reptilian people in Buddhist lore, this fluid makes them unable to hold their shape, or hold their form, or their projection of the form that they're holding on you. And it causes them to lose all of control, supposedly. And that's what I was putting to the test. So, and mind you, I didn't see anyone lose control, but there were people that were flat out avoiding me, bro. Like, they would not come near me. Like, they would do everything in their power to not even be within a 10-foot vicinity of me. So I'm gonna say the experiment was a success. And boy, was it fucking weird. And I mean, if there's many other ways to go about this, you don't have to use a bodily fluid. Don't get me wrong. But like, it was the one thing that just seemed so off the wall. And I was like, you know what? Let's fucking see if this works. And boy, it fucking did.
Science.
Science, bro.
Science.
It's like, we got to try it, man. Like, the same thing with the bells, like, because they apparently don't like bells. So I had a friend who was dealing with what she thought was, she has a fucked up situation she's going through with her son and brain cancer, but it's a long story. But the hospital, she knew some of the hospital workers weren't right. There was something up with them. So I said, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to bring a bell in with you. Right. And I said, you're going to bring in a bell. And anytime they start getting disrespectful or rude with you, you're just going to ring that bell. And boy, wouldn't you know it, Frank, she started manipulating the hospital staff with the bell. Oh, dude, it was. I wish she had caught it on video. I wish like she if she could have, but she was telling me, she's like, they come in and they start placing all of these weird demands on me, and I just pick up the bell and ring it, and they just shut up. And they just shut up right away. Shut away. And I'm like, see, we're getting one on them now. Look at that, especially here in the physical. But yeah, I wanted to share that with you because I thought you would appreciate those.
Thank you for sharing. And I'm sure everyone else is like, yeah, boy, we're going to go science. We're going to figure this one out, because that's what we've been doing. And that's what we're here to do. Figure it out. Remember what it is and bring our attention to it. Our attention brings the awareness. And with that attention, great power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely, man.
Steve, BGcast, tell everyone where they could find you.
Guys, it's been a pleasure, man. You guys can find me on Forbidden Knowledge Network, www.forbiddenknowledge.news. You can find me, Don, if you know Don from After Dark Show. You can find Chris Matthew, Ryder Lee, everybody over there on that network. I love it. I don't plan on going anywhere, and it's a great place to be. And definitely go support all the documentaries, Chris's documentaries, Ryder's documentaries, all that. And guys, you can find me on Rumble under BGcast. You can find me on YouTube under BGcast. Frank will be throwing my Spotify on there for you guys as well. But I'm on Spreaker, Rockfan, all of those. And you can find me on under BGcast on every social media. I am most active on X and Facebook. My IG, I'm just so severely shadow banned. Sometimes I don't even know why I post there anymore. But if you want to hit me up there, you can too. And other than that, Frank, it was a motherfucking pleasure to sit down with you again tonight, man, and have this chat. And this is what makes it, man. And a lot of people, the one thing I want to leave everybody with, man, is like, this right here, what we're doing is insanely big. It is. A lot of people think, what, you're just getting online and you're talking to somebody and you're having a conversation. Well, the conversations that we're having, all right, this is what's contributing to our collective evolution. This is big, what we're doing, man. If you take a 16th of a step one day in your progress, not a full step, and you only had it in you to take a 16th of a step, that's still fucking big, dude. You know what I mean? You still took that little tiny step. And the one thing I will leave everybody with is sovereignty is the new currency. Discernment should be at an all-time high. Understand that you are that divine source, that divine focal point. And we are doing big and huge things. Even if you're just healing yourself on a personal level, that's a fucking big and huge thing, dude. And that's something we all have to understand. No growth is too small. No healing is too little. as long as you make that space for yourself and your divine nature, it's all going to come together in the right way for you.
Well said, my brother.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much. Don't forget to check out BGcast. All the links will be in the description, right? And I'm Frank Castle. Don't forget to check out Sons of the Suns. And this is Fearless Conversations. And remember, the universe rewards bravery. We'll have Steve back. We're going to continue the conversations and go as deep as we can get each and every time. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon. Have a great night.